Hello everyone, Operator Starsky here. Um, so today there was a parade in Moscow, and I hope that you saw it, and I hope that you didn't consider your time of your life that you spent looking at this show wasted. No volume. You sure? Can you hear me, guys? Cause Bob Basher says I have no volume. Oh, all right. So yeah, the parade. Let's jump straight into it and check it out, because today we're going to chill the hell out of this parade, which started, by the way, by those columns of marching soldiers, except that they were not soldiers. Actually, they were rather rescuers. So in Russia they have this МЧС, which is Министерство чрезвычайных ситуаций, basically like firefighters. And the parade was started with the firefighters and rescuers. And interesting thing, of course, today we talked a lot about the absence of Russian tanks, rather Russians using those stealth invisible tanks that nobody can see. But actually there was much more to this parade. So there were no tanks for one simple reason. They need those tanks at the front lines. Okay. At the same time, there were those firefighters from МЧС, and those firefighters are actually needed in different locations of Russia, because as we know, there are massive fires burning at this moment in different regions, destroying like whole settlements. But who cares about people in Russia, right? So they had plenty of firefighters marching on the Red Square in Moscow today, regardless of what's going on in other regions. At the same time, for example, I decided to just compare to what they had last year, even last year when the full-scale invasion already started. And last year they had Kantemirov division marching like combat division of the Russian armed forces, and there on the picture you can see Tamань division again marching. Those people were there, and the reason why you couldn't see them today, I think you probably know why. Because they died. So there were cadets of МЧС, cadets of those of the Academy of the Civil Defense of Russia. They are considered; those guys are considered like militarized rescuers or something like that. Basically, like 9/11 on steroids, but not a combat force. Another interesting thing that I noticed today was that they showed the probably only anti-air defense system during the parade, which was S-400 anti-air missile systems. So yes, they were there today, of course, because actually they have quite a few of them. But during the parade of 2022, there were different types of anti-air systems like Tor, Panzer. You could see them last year, basically, before they realized that they are losing the war in Ukraine before they were even brought to Ukraine, and hopefully destroyed here. So at the same time, like, why we didn't see them on the parade today as well is because currently they are not only used in Ukraine, but they're also used all around Russia, Moscow specifically, again because they're afraid of flying drones, unknown flying objects, and things like that. And we know that they installed those anti-air systems like anywhere, everywhere. And Focci is saying hello to you guys, by the way. So today they also showed those BTRs, those modern Russian BTRs that are built on the platform called Boomerang. But the problem is that they only have like several of them built physically, and those BTRs are used on different parades, on different events. They always bring them to different exhibitions, and they don't produce them in big numbers. They only have like 3 of them. And those 3 BTRs, those boomerangs, they were brought to the parade as well because they had to bring at least something. At the same time, during the parade in 2022, they had different types of armored vehicles. For example, here you can see the BTR-82. And if you saw my videos from Hostomel, you probably remember that I made a video of such BTR, improved version, improved with higher temperatures. In Hostomel, we have quite a few of those. And so this thing, by the way, looks very, very similar to the Ukrainian BTR-3 that I commanded back in my days. But not as good, I would say, because it lacks, I believe, the automatic grenade launcher, and Ukrainian BTR also has 2 ATGMs, laser guided. That's why they suck and lose. And of course, you noticed this guy. So this guy is again always brought to military parades in Russia, specifically like on the 9th of May, Victory-mania day. We have like a specific term for Victory-mania. It's Победобесие. So Победа is victory, it's a Russian word for victory, and Победобесие is, it's not like calling it a Victory-mania, is like victory orgy. Probably. That's the closest translation. It's when instead of like memorizing all the victims of this horrible war, they just do all kinds of crazy shit, getting drunk and dancing, wearing those military uniforms like barbarians. So T-34, I predicted this tank to be brought to the front lines eventually. Maybe we will maybe we will see them at the front lines in the future. I think we should expect that, actually, because they have several of those tanks. That's an interesting topic, by the way. Let's check Wikipedia, because Wikipedia knows everything. Where is my browser? So yeah, here it is. T-34, because I checked T-34 sometime in the past, and it doesn't seem that they have a lot of them. So currently they have initial production. By the way, my grandpa commanded one of those. Not this version. There were several different versions of T-34. Yeah, I think this one. So this one has like a small, like a mask here, you see? Is that even T-34? So the only existing type of like early T-34 tanks that we have, I believe, in Ukraine, in Kyiv, is in Korsun-Shevchenkivsky in the museum. Oh, yeah, here it is. Muzей Korsun. Yeah, of course. Muzей Korsun Шевченківської битви. Oh yeah, here it is. So this is the type of tank that my grandpa commanded back in the days. It has this specific sort of mask right here, and those T-34, those like early ones, they are considered like legit, like genuine. Okay, so we wanted to check how many of those tanks they have actually. They produced almost 55,000 T-34 tanks, seems to me. And currently in Russia they have operators. Russia, use of a T-34 during the Russo-Ukrainian war was reported by some news outlets, but has not been confirmed by official sources. I know for sure that they used T-34, I believe, in Donetsk. They started this tank that was used as a statue. And they sort of resurrected this tank and tried to use it, but I'm not sure if they had any shells or anything like that. Anyways, that's very interesting because, for example, in 2022 they had all kinds of tanks during the parade. So, for example, here we can see T-90M Prorыv, and that one in the top left corner is Armata itself. And that Armata is the most successful of their Armatas because it doesn't require horses or other vehicles or tractors to be able to move. And those were used last year. From what I remember, they also created like some specific cover for T-90Ms. Like heat reflecting cover something like that. We captured one with such a cover, and not sure if it was really successful, but anyways. No T-14s in the war. Wonder why? It's because they require something that makes them move, something that they can attach this tank to and be able to move it from place to place. This is how this tank works. So again, all of those tanks that you can see here in this picture that was taken last year, they are currently being used in Ukraine. I believe a lot of them already got improved with high temperatures and other things. Another interesting thing that I noticed today was that that's a beautiful weather over Moscow today, and they still had no aviation participating in that parade. I believe that last year, and I checked it, last year they had no aviation because the weather was rather cloudy, and they decided not to use airplanes. At the same time, today they could totally use them, but again, they did not. And the reason for that was probably because maybe not even that they had no planes, but rather they had no pilots to pilot those planes. We remember that a lot of their experienced pilots, and again, in those parades, basically experienced pilots are used to fly those airplanes. Their most experienced pilots died early in this war when they were shot down all over Ukraine, and their ejection systems didn't work for some reason. So to me, it was like from a military standpoint, it was very interesting to analyze this parade, not only to have a good laugh on it, but also because it's a good indication on their issues, on their problems. One of them is they lack vehicles, they lack tanks, they lack personnel. Of course, they realize that bringing personnel from Ukraine, from the occupied territories, to Moscow means that it can be like a risk. They didn't want to risk removing the reserves, for example. So I think it was beautiful. At the same time, today, I was browsing some older pictures. For example, just for giggles, okay? This is a combined Russian and Ukrainian parade in Kyiv, 2010. Literally a bit more than 3 years before Russia invaded Ukraine. Before they annexed Crimea. Here you can see their soldiers marching together with Ukrainian soldiers on Khreshchatyk, Maidan, Square of Independence, Kyiv downtown. And thank God we don't have that shit, and we will not have that shit anymore. I don't know whom to thank. I don't know how you call your God, if you're a believer, like Buddha, Allah, Odin, I don't care. Jesus Christ, I want to thank this person for, that we will never see that again. Okay, never again, because it sucks. The people that celebrated victory, because in Ukraine we had this horrible tradition from Russia, and that's why we celebrated it too on the 9th of May together with Russians, and people that used to celebrate and like drink and do all kinds of crazy shit on the 9th of May last year had to celebrate this very holiday under the Russian missiles. Speaking of missiles, so yesterday we were attacked, and that's one of the missiles that was discovered not far from Kyiv. Actually, from what we know, 25 missiles were launched at the Ukrainian cities. Mostly caliber types of missiles were used, X-101 and X-555. 25 were launched, 23 were shot down, and several of them were discovered all over Ukraine. One was found near Fastiv. I believe it, like the remains of this missile landed in a yard of a private house. And that one, actually, I've been there today. This one was intercepted and exploded in the air. So, missiles. Why did we start talking about missiles? Anyways, today we had another beautiful event in the Kyiv downtown. So we were meeting Ursula von der Leyen, head of the EU, and that's a kick-ass sweater, I must admit. I gotta find myself one in green. She was brought to the Mikhailivska Square in Kyiv, and that is a wall of memory, basically. There's this huge, beautiful monastery that we have in Kyiv downtown. Cheryl, as for casualties, we know that several people were slightly wounded, but nobody died. Basically, 23 of 25 missiles were intercepted, so majority of damage was caused by the debris. That is a wall of memory. I believe Johnny FD made a video. We did together a video with Johnny FD near that wall. There are pictures of my guys as well. And there's also this exhibition of improved Russian vehicles and tanks. Majority of them come from Hostomel directly. Again, that's where I met Yuri the Knockin' Fats. Sweater. I agree. Black always looks cool. On the other hand, I should wear something like olive, because olive is a corporate color for the National Guard of Ukraine. Majority of tanks and vehicles that are exhibited there at the exhibition in the Kyiv downtown came from Hostomel, as you probably know. There's a bunch of stuff that was found parked next to Mriya airplane, and between those hangars, Maria and Ruslan, and then they were destroyed and detonated. So there's a lot of things to remember. Today I was watching like old pictures for some reason. Not like I missed those days, but I was watching like old pictures from Hostomel, April, May. The craziest story. I don't remember if I told you this story before. It's like the guys I know, okay, around Hostomel. So they liberated that area last year, and they started finding Russian remains, and they found like a dead orc, half buried in the soil, and they called it a oh my god, like a police investigator. They were like, that's a story that I heard, and they were like, we found a dead orc, like, what should we do? And he's like, what's his condition? He's like half buried. And this investigator is like, can you dig him out? Like, can you excavate him? And they're like, no. Like, why? If you need it, take a shovel and come here and do it yourself, because we have more important things to do. And he's like, yeah, okay, then just bury him back. So yeah, there are still Russians around. The only way you can find them is using a shovel. Did you let Yemelyan from Pskov go to the parade? Murray, it's like Yemelyan is now guarding my garage. Because we have like sunny weather outside, and it's bad for his condition, because if you saw Yemelyan, he doesn't look very healthy, even though he became a better version of himself. I like green olives on pizza. Will Anderson. I don't know how to eat olives. Like, literally, they don't taste good. Personally, to me. Antonio Ortiz, breaking news. Trump found guilty of rape. Yes, I read about it today. I don't know much about this story, but yeah, I checked it out. What can I say? It's a Trump. So, the missiles, why we started talking about the missiles is because today chief of our, not the chief, spokesman for the Ukraine Air Force explained why we could not shoot down all the missiles that were approaching our civilian objects. It's because, first of all, the front line is a very, very long span, okay? It's around 2,500 kilometers long. And that's why Ukraine literally doesn't have enough anti-air systems, anti-air resources to cover all this, all the front line. At the same time, we always have to move our anti-air measures because Russians conduct reconnaissance all the time in order to find the exact location of our anti-air defense. That's why we have to move it from place to place often. And that's another reason. So at the same time, I believe that shooting down like at least 70 75%, like we always do, it's a good result. Again, 25 missiles were fired this morning. I couldn't sleep well, but nobody can sleep well in Ukraine since the last year. So 25 missiles. I remember last year they were firing like 125 missiles in a single strike, using their strategic bombers and ships and submarines. Their storage is depleting. Those missiles they're using, they were literally produced like in January 2023. Can you make alcohol from olives? That's a good question. I would like to know it myself. In Ukraine, we can produce alcohol from anything, literally. But as for olives, never heard about it. Ghost, do you think Putin is saying Ukraine might be making a dirty bomb because he's gonna do so to blame you? That can happen, of course. So the US delivered some specific equipment to Ukraine that can detect radiation, and basically in case Russians use some kind of dirty bomb or nuclear weapon in Ukraine, they will not be able to blame us because we will use this equipment to detect the location, detect everything, the cause, the reason it happened. That's why I believe that they will not be able to do it. But at the same time, the EU watchdog, they were kind of disturbed yesterday when they learned that Russians planted explosives in the Zaporizhian power plant. Again, it's like in Hostomel. They parked all of their shit next to Mriya airplane. Maybe it was because they didn't have enough space. Because I was watching an interview with one of paratroopers the other day. Not sure if he was legit because, again, they had their faces covered and shit like that. But at the same time, he was asked something like how many vehicles were destroyed by the Ukrainian artillery, and he said that Ukrainian artillery didn't have to aim even well because there were so many vehicles parked there at the airport. So whenever there was a shell incoming, several vehicles would detonate at the same time. Dartsai Eater, please your honest assessment of the situation in Bakhmut. Approximately 3 months ago, I was asked whether Bakhmut was gonna fall. And I honestly said that no, it was not. And it will not. So that's the honest assessment. And that's exactly what happened. The only reason why it can be captured is if Russia manages to completely destroy all the buildings in the area, or like 90% of buildings in Bakhmut. That is the only thing they can do. So our defenders will not be able to take cover, they will not be able to have beneficial positions, and they will have to move out. That is exactly what happened in Rubizhne and Severodonetsk. Ralph asks to teach you how to swear in Ukrainian. I think it's a good topic for a separate video. Clay Wilkinson, is there a lot of inbreeding in Russia? Something has to explain things. I believe there is a very good explanation, which is low education and culture. Because if your people drink all the time, and just let me show you, for example, I don't know where I had this. Was it here or here? So, yeah. So it's like, if this is how your citizens look, mostly, right? And I'm not talking about like St. Petersburg, Moscow, whatever. If that is the standard of your life everywhere else on the rest of your territory, if your children see like older people drinking and smoking and behaving like animals and doing all kinds of crazy shit, then that is the reason. The low culture and low education. That's all. You don't need to have like what is this? This is Russia. This is Russian people celebrating a glorious Victory Day. Richard Stevens, Kentucky looks like that. Kentucky, comparing to this, and trust me, looks like a freaking, I don't know, Washington, D.C. You have to visit Russia at least once in order to compare it to the worst city in the US. Okay, it's so hard to explain. It's so hard to pass this horrible experience that I survived also because I've been to Russia like once in my life, and I don't recommend it. Looks like Borat movie. Gustavo, that is a good comparison. I think it's a perfect comparison. Why are they burning the food? They're burning their brain. Yeah, the reason I decided to make this stream today, first of all, because I missed you guys, and the second thing is that Vlad Wexler made a video about the tankless parade, but again, it's not only about tanks, it's about everything else, like personnel, like, or rather, lack of the personnel, airplanes, again, armored vehicles, anti-air systems. It was very interesting to analyze, actually. As for the Putin speech, like, I didn't even watch it because I knew exactly what he was gonna say. That's why there was no point in watching it whatsoever. Do people from Donbass have this mentality too? Question from Kaimo. So you remember you can't remember it, but you remember about it. The Holodomor, it was an artificial famine created in Ukraine in 1932-1933, when approximately, different sources say that even up to 10 million Ukrainians died because of this. Ukrainians were not allowed to collect grain. Russian NKVD would take their bread, take their food, and bring it to Russia, while Ukrainians were dying on the streets from hunger. And in places like Donbass, where a lot of people died, Russia brought their settlers, and they moved into those houses where Ukrainian people lived before they died, and they brought some of this culture with them. So I would not say that it's very typical for Donbass. In Kurakhove, 2015, we were patrolling Kurakhove, and they had like those garages. How to explain this to you people? Let me try and show it to you, because I can. So this is what we call a garage. I don't have such garage, okay? I have better garage made from like bricks and stuff. But for some reason, from Soviet times, we have a lot of that shit in Ukraine. And that is called the garage. Basically like a metal box where you can store your car, spend your time away from your wife, drinking beer with the guys and stuff like that. And I don't know how this culture arrived to Ukraine. Probably it was brought with Soviet shit. So we were patrolling Kurakhove. It's not far from Mariinka, Krasnohorivka. And we decided to check those garages, because there's a like long row of those garages, for example. And nice math lab. Yeah. We found one lab in such a garage. So you are very, very correct about this. And there was a channel. Again, I will show it to you, because oh my god, Kurakhove. This is Kurakhove. It's again, it's not far from Mariinka and Krasnohorivka. In 2015, there was some, I would say, rather serious fighting in that area. Not in Kurakhove itself, but here we have Mariinka, for example. Mariinka is currently completely destroyed by the Russian artillery and aviation, but back in 2015 it was more or less fine. And here in Kurakhove they have a power station, and my god, what it is, the power station and the like a channel. And yeah, Nova Posta and things like that. So here, this is the channel, as you can see. And here you can probably see those garages. It's like in this area and in this area, those all are garages. And I'm not sure what this picture looks like, but anyways. And yeah, here, for example, you can see a lot of them. People were storing their cars, and here we have like a small channel that is used to probably like cool down the power station. It's not a nuclear power station, but still, no idea. So we were patrolling around those garages, and we decided to walk behind them along the channel from that side, and we saw like terraces, we saw places for making barbecue. So the guys in Donbass, in Kurakhove, they would have like in evening they would park their car, they would meet their neighbors and have a beer or two and make barbecue next to the channel and catch some fish and stuff. So I would not say that they had that Russian mentality. They had Ukrainian mentality, and people in Donbass, they are absolutely no different from people from like Kherson or Lviv. But there is a small number of people that were installed in Donbass instead of Ukrainians that died. And after almost a century, their grandkids are claiming that Donbass is a Russian land. That's what I'm saying. Garage barbecue, like that is this metal garage, right? Imagine behind this garage, imagine like a terrace with chairs and places for like barbecue grills and fishing places and things like that. It looked so amazing, and especially in summer, because I had a deployment in summer, it was really, really good. Okay, let's see more questions. Prigozhin Kabuki. Yeah. Metal sheds. Basically, it's like metal sheds. I would not call this like a Russian garage. It's more like a Soviet garage, Savok garage. Because we had a lot of this legacy from Soviet Union. They are usually old and rusty, and I don't see people buying a lot of them nowadays. Pete, can we talk about Prigozhin and Wagner pullout? As for Prigozhin, so the situation is following. I would not trust his words, because Prigozhin is saying a lot of BS. So first he was saying that the Ukrainian counteroffensive, yeah, and the same question from Paddy Patron. Do you believe Prigozhin's last statement? First, he was claiming that the Ukrainian counteroffensive already started. In approximately several days, he was saying that Ukrainian counteroffensive is about to start. Then he was claiming that they will move out from Bakhmut on May 10th. It's 1 hour past midnight of 10th of May, and they're still there. So they were saying that they lack ammo and shells, and later he was claiming that no, they still have ammo and shells, and then he was again claiming that they have no ammo and shells. So don't trust Prigozhin at all. You can trust him if he doesn't breathe, okay? But don't believe their statements at all. The biggest difference between Ukrainians and Russians, which is the biggest, I think, not psychological, the biggest philosophical difference. They are known for lying a lot. They are known for propaganda. Propaganda is basically a huge amount of BS. It's like claiming that Ukrainians were killing people in Donbass until Russia arrived. And if you saw my latest short on YouTube, you will understand that it doesn't fit even into a time scale. It never happened. 2 days prior to the finishing of the Revolution of Dignity in Ukraine, Russia already started annexing Crimea. Some Russian troll, and I'm so glad that Russian trolls are commenting a lot in the commentaries for those shorts specifically, because it means that it's a result. It brings result. It's like a seal of approval. So they were saying Russia preventively occupied Donbass and Crimea to save people, because otherwise they would be killed by Azov. Azov only emerged 2 months later, after the beginning of the Russian invasion, on May 5th. And the Russian invasion, the annexation of Crimea, started on February 20th. So they're using propaganda. It's basically creating alternative history and convincing you that it was a reality. Ukraine doesn't use propaganda. Ukraine uses public relations, because this is what civilized countries are using to communicate with people. That's why we don't say bullshit. That's why we have this huge gap between Ukrainian culture and Russian culture. Why is Prigozhin still alive? The biggest reason is because, first of all, he doesn't participate in direct combat, and another reason is he knows a lot. He's very, very public. That's the reason. Why he makes all those statements is to remain public. Father Paul Zimmerman, greetings from South Australia. It's very nice to see you. What do you think Putin was thinking today as he looked at his army? Well, Putin is convinced that he will at least grab some part of territory. What I mean by this, because my English is bad. He realizes that he cannot win this war. He realizes that he cannot swallow what he bitten off, right? Bit off. Anyways, what he expects. Okay, he expects that this war will continue for as long as he is able to control his internal audience, which is basically is not that hard. But his elites, they already started fighting inside of the Russian top management. So he expects to continue this war until he can more or less control those elites. And when he realizes that this war must end, he will probably attempt to do this, and he will try to keep the territory that they occupied. Maybe it will happen sometime soon after the Ukrainian counteroffensive that we all expect and prepare for. Maybe it will look like this. I'm not an expert in geopolitics. I'm just a Captain Obvious. Noob of the year. I thought he was working to make a coup. Prigozhin, I don't think that he has enough power to do that. He has a bunch of armed thugs, but at the same time, he's not a well-respected politician in Russia. Yeah, he has bitten off more than he can chew. That's the word. Do you receive threats from Kadyrov Chechens anymore? Sometimes. But I cannot even tell if they are like real Kadyrovites, because they can be like some Russian pupils of high school, for example, because in approximately 15 days, the summer vacation in Russian schools is going to start. And it means that we will see much more Russian military experts sharing their thoughts in the internet and on YouTube and in your commentaries. That's why we have to be prepared for this. They will disappear approximately after 1st of September 2023, when they will start attending their universities or higher classes of their school. A question from Aussie Green Skull. How come you gave up Crimea not firing a shoot? So the situation was following. This dude that was born in Karaganda, USSR, in Kazakhstan, in former Kazakh SSR. He was our minister. Oh, you can see his picture there. He was our minister of defense during the regime of pro-Russian President Yanukovych, the one who fled to Russia. He also had, and I'm not kidding you, I shit you not, he had like a badge, he was always wearing it, a badge of Russian like special service, secret service. He was wearing it while he was a minister of defense of Ukraine. And I hope that this answers your question, because in 2014. In 2014. This is how Ukrainian army pretty much looked like. That's why we lost Crimea without firing a shot. And again, even though we had Russian terrorists, Russian regular military men like Igor Girkin, right? Even though we had those men starting coup here and there in Kharkiv, in Donetsk, Luhansk, Odessa, Mykolaiv, Kherson, we still managed, because we had volunteers, we still managed to save most of Ukraine intact. We lost some territories in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. We lost Crimea, but we managed to keep the rest of Ukraine. Even though we, like, our army basically did not exist. It was ruined very much by all those years that Ukraine was ruled by the pro-Russians, because of course they didn't want Ukraine to have a strong army. Who saw Kadyrov's Louis Vuitton camo jacket? I gotta show it to people. Thank you very much for mentioning this, because it's freaking awesome, and I have it right here, I believe. Yeah. Please give me a second, because this is hilarious. So you may think that this is... Oh my god, don't run away. Kadyrov did exactly what Kadyrovites do. He ran away, but I will bring him back. And you may think that this is some kick-ass Spetsnaz camo jacket, and you will be wrong. Because in reality, it's a stylish jacket from Louis Vuitton that costs approximately 200 something thousands Russian rubles, and in American money it's something like $4,000. So I don't think it's counterfeit, because he was already noticed wearing... again, I will show it to you because I have it right here. Yeah, so again, Kadyrov is a very, very stylish man. He follows the trends. Yeah, here we have Kadyrov, and here we have Kadyrov wearing not a like military footwear, not military boots. It's like Prada. He's a very stylish dude. He has a lot of people like outside of Russia that bring him all kinds of shit. It spells out Louis Vuitton in camo. Yeah, that's right. You can literally read that. There it says Louis Vuitton. Don. Fashion victim. Yeah, 100%. The chart. Did you go through any Western training before or during your time in Donbass? So yeah, we did, because in 2021 we had some very intensive training together with our Canadian colleagues. There is this special military training mission in Ukraine called Unifier, and our friends, it's a Canadian mission, and our friends were training our guys in terms of urban combat and tactical medicine and IEDs. But it was like 2021. Wait, since 2016. Since 2016, we were trained again by Canadians. I remember it very well because I was still a private in our infantry company, and we participated for the first time in the history of the National Guard of Ukraine. We participated in the mutual military exercise called Rapid Trident 2016. I think I can find it for you. Okay, yeah, so this is... Holy shit, and it's from like Russian source, Sputnik. Yeah, so this is my company in 2016, and I believe that Jesus. So there there is my platoon. Let me see if I have like better pictures, because again, this is my company prior to this military exercise. Yeah, those are my guys. Okay, and we had red berets before changing them to blue berets. Currently, National Guard of Ukraine. Currently, we have like blue berets, like this. It was sort of rebranding for the National Guard of Ukraine, because red berets are mostly used by Russians, and we don't want to have any freaking, like, anything in common with them. That's why we changed them to blue. But back in those days, we were still wearing red ones. And like, I'm trying to find myself. That is no. But there you can see Armed Forces of Lithuania and the US. They had like a huge photo gallery on Flickr with all our pictures. Oh, by the way. Yeah. those are our guys. We had this like tradition after or before doing some kind of operation, performing some kind of operation. We would gather in circle and scream, "Who we are, warriors!" You know, it was really cool and awesome. And yeah, this is not my platoon. So this, what you see here, is wargaming. So again, it was back in 2016. We had wargaming with other units at the same military exercise. We were using JCATS, I believe. It's an application that is simulating a combat and your possible losses and the outcome of this combat. And those are Ukrainian paratroopers. And those are our guys. That's our machine gunner. Oh, I remember that one because we were like clearing a house. And it was awesome. We were using Miles systems. It's like I'm trying to find a picture to show it to you because it's always better to show that than to explain. No, we don't have it. So basically, Miles is like when you have this specific vest with sensors, and you also have this stuff on like laser tag. Yeah, exactly. You have those sensors on your helmet and vest, and you attach this laser thing to the barrel of your rifle, and then when you're shooting blanks, it sounds like a laser beam that is sensed by the sensors, and it means that it starts beeping, meaning that you're either wounded or dead. And people were cheating. I know that for sure. They probably had some kind of, equipment to cancel that beeping. They were cheating. Can you tell me why Russians hate Ukrainians? For the same reason why Nazi Germans hated Polish people or Jews. For the same very reason. Criminals don't need a reason to rob you or hate you. They really don't. Oh, Brandon, hi buddy. Finally, you're in my stream. Finally. And bro, by the way, let us know if you convinced Arthur to join our little Gigolo project, because it's very, very important. I mean, it can improve our reach and client relations. Of course, we will have to pay him like salary, because we have to admit Arthur is the sexiest of us all. Um, Airsoft. I I wouldn't say that Airsoft was. Where is Fudge? Bro, Fudge is sleeping. I wouldn't say that Airsoft was better than Miles. At the same time, I think it could be used. Uh, on the other hand, with Miles, you can shoot like not like live ammunition, but still it goes bang. And the problem is, for example, when you're training in the forest between trees, if there's like bushes or tall grass, the beam doesn't go well through those objects. Uh, well, I tried both. I tried Airsoft, I tried Miles. I prefer Miles. Actually, let me see. I believe that there even were some. I believe that there were some. Oh, guys, I have it right here. No, it's 2021. I wanted to show you some kind of news report or video because we had that. And I remember I even was interviewed by journalists during the Rapid Trident 2016. No, I'll find it next time. Do you play Ostriv or Cossacks? I didn't play Cossacks since high school, probably because it's a very very old game, but it's still very cool game. As for Ostriv, I realized that it's gonna take a lot of my time that I don't really have. But I know that Ostriv is a kick-ass game. It's absolutely awesome, and it's created by, I believe, a single developer. Brandon, Simunition teaches them to keep their heads down. Yeah, I agree. It's like we were clearing the house, and I don't remember that we had anything like headphones, nothing like that. We were clearing the house and throwing like flashbang grenades and shooting live ammo. If you're shooting inside a building with like walls and everything, it's like 10 times louder usually. Usually you don't hear anything completely for like 10-15 minutes after that. Which is cool. Because people who do airsoft, they don't have this experience. Shooting inside a building, guys, it sounds loud. It sounds loud and scary, and especially like throwing grenades. There were guys from, my God, there were cadets of Academy of Paratroopers, Lviv Academy of Paratroopers. They were playing the Op 4, okay, and we were the Blue 4, and so they were defending a house, and we were trying to storm this building. And my sergeant, because I was still a private, my sergeant threw this imitation charge, but not like imitation grenade. He took an imitation charge for like mortar shell. and he threw it into like a window. Uh, the training grenade, when it explodes, it sounds freaking loud. The shell. So those guys, they received some light contusion, I believe, inside that building. Airsoft can be a lot of fun, but indeed not much of a simulation at all. I agree on that. One thing that you have to get accustomed to is that all the shooting business, all the exploding business, it's very loud. It's not like in the movies, guys. It's a completely different thing. How would we go about paying you to create a video teaching non-Ukrainians how to sing in Ukrainian? Jade, I don't sing well. I can try to teach you how to scream if you want to make like metal, but I'm not very good at singing. Probably you should find somebody who does it better than me. Oh, good question from Gabriel. How common are ear protections in the army of Ukraine, and how good are they? Majority of our artillery boys use them. I would say like 100% of them use ear protection for obvious reasons. Also, our RPG operators, they usually have like earplugs, or if they can afford, they can buy like headphones. Headphones are always better, especially active headphones, because they let you hear everything. And also in the National Guard of Ukraine, I'm not sure about the armed forces, but in the National Guard of Ukraine, we are receiving, not receiving, we are being issued the earplugs. So it doesn't matter if it's a conscript or contract soldier, whatever, you are issued those earplugs, and it's a very new thing. So they started, those earplugs are started being issued approximately by the end of the last year. How about humming? I can do that. Can you do a video with Shloim Zionze? Absolutely. Absolutely. If we can get in touch. By the way, he visited Bucha recently. Basically, he was not far from me. Level 70, does every soldier have night vision? Unfortunately, not every soldier has night vision, but in case it's like a position, then the guys who spend several hours defending this position, they have a night vision device or thermal camera or something like that. Then the guys that arrive to change them, they receive it from them, usually. This is how it works. Your song about getting Lada is awesome. Thank you so much. Is he still in Ukraine? I believe so. I believe so because his most recent video was made like several days ago, I believe. One thing that we really miss is individual night vision goggles. Because from what I remember from Rapid Trident, American infantry had them, like every single soldier. I don't remember about our Polish colleagues, but Americans had them definitely. And that's something that we lack big time. Scott Mansing, good to see you, my friend. Ukraine getting Storm Shadow missiles. Yeah, I've heard about it. Will Transnistria and Kaliningrad exist after this? I highly doubt that, actually. Because Transnistria, I think that it's something that you should ask people from Moldova. But I believe that they really miss part of their country. The same as we miss part of our country, like Donbass and Crimea. What do you think about the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968? The Russians keep claiming that it was brotherly help. How was it taught in Ukraine before 2014? Before 2014, it was taught exactly like it was. It was a Russian freaking invasion. They always claim that it's a brotherly help. They help to liberate Ukraine from Ukrainians, Chechnya from Chechens, Syria from Syrians. What Russians claim is something that you should just ignore every single time. What do you think about our new president in Czech Republic? The general, he's badass. He's awesome. What about Saakashvili, Georgia? So, we all supported the Georgian Revolution, of course, and we stood by Georgia big time during this revolution, during all the reforms that were made in Georgia. I visited Tbilisi in 2010, 2 years after the Russian invasion, and I was impressed because it was so much more advanced than Ukraine back then. I don't know about today, but back then they had this new reformed police. We only managed to introduce those reform, I believe, in 2015, 2016. But Georgians had that like 5 years prior to Ukraine. And it was very, very safe on the streets because like there were surveillance cameras everywhere, so you could just park your car. You didn't have to close it, to lock it, and it would be perfectly safe because specifically in Tbilisi it was very, very safe back then. So I enjoyed being in Tbilisi. There was this funny story. So me and my ex, we went to this like small cafeteria, like open air cafeteria. We order some shashlik, I believe, something like that. If you want to taste shashlik, you gotta go to Georgia. Trust me, or you should ask Georgians to make shashlik because they do it perfectly. So again, we're starting to talk about food, and we enjoyed shashlik big time with plenty onion, and it was so good. And then some man walked to the bar tent, and then he left this place. And after that, some other local men behind us, they started like shouting, like screaming. So I thought that some fight was about to start, something like that. So I asked the waitress, like, what's going on? And she's like, those men that were shouting, those men wanted to pay for you because they noticed that we were Ukrainians. But that man who came to me, he paid for you before they managed to do that. That's why they were like screaming and they were angry because they couldn't pay for us. So we spent the rest of the day drinking with those men. And again, Georgian wine is so good. You gotta try it. What makes Georgia special is that, like, literally, when you arrive to Georgia, if you're from outside, if you're like from Ukraine, specifically from Ukraine, or any other country, they will treat you like a guest, like the most important person in the world, and it's very difficult to pay for yourself because they will be like, no, we will do everything, just sit here, and they will feed you and give you wine, and you feel a bit awkward because, like, you understand you don't really deserve this, but you are their guest and you're the most valuable person for them at this moment of time. So Georgians are so beautiful and great. Shashlik is another type of shish kebab. So shashlik, that garage. This is shashlik, and from the look of it, you can already realize that it tastes fantastic. Basically, it's pieces of meat on a stick with pieces of onion between them. And you have to spend approximately 1 or 2 days soaking this meat in a specific marinade or sauce. And then you put it on fire. And for example, here in Ukraine, we prefer forks. Forks. Oh my God. In Ukraine, we prefer like pork shashlik. Why pork? Is because when this fat starts melting, the meat gets soaked in its juice, and it's so good. It's awesome. But other kinds of meat are also acceptable. Do you have comparison between Polish 8th of May parade to Russia awful simulation of a parade? Look, the biggest difference between any other parade in a civilized country, in any given civilized country, and Russian victory parade is that the 8th of May in civilized world is considered a memorial day. On this day, you usually memorize you're remembering your relatives, maybe, or even unrelated people who either died during this war or was murdered basically laid their life. All the victims of Holocaust, all the victims of other countries that were fighting, it's a remembering day. It's a mourning day. Yeah, so it's not like, yes, we celebrate because we were able to win and stay alive. At the same time, humanity lost tens of millions of people in this war. It's a crazy number. And not only military people, like civilians that were brought to concentration camps, that were bombed. So it's rather a memorial day. It's not a reason to get drunk like a freaking pig and dance and, like, do that kind of crazy shit that Muscovians do. In Muscovia is different because in Muscovia they don't have the Second World War. They have the Great Patriotic War that started in 1941, not in 1939. 2 years prior to that, Soviets and Nazi Germans, they were allies. Take a look at this. I'm sure you saw it, not the shashlik, but 1939, German-Soviet military parade in Brest-Litovsky. Those are Soviets together with Nazi Germans who have a mutual parade, and there you can see on the right, I believe, Russian soldiers. Further on the background there are German soldiers. They were allies. They were allies who decided to divide Poland, to divide the world, basically, and they were allies before 1941. They were best friends. They had mutual parades. They had the same goals. Hitler and Stalin had the same goals. But Stalin wanted something that Hitler wanted. Stalin wanted Sweden because of metal. Stalin wanted Baltic countries because of the access to the sea. What else? Romania, basically, because if you control Romania, you can access the other side of Carpathians. So they were allies, basically. That's all. 1941, 1945 in Russia is considered a great patriotic war. Forget about the Second World War. Forget about it. It doesn't exist. There is a great patriotic war. And they celebrate it. And when they celebrate it, they keep repeating to themselves that they could win this war. Without Ukrainians, they could win this war. Without the Land-Lease, they could win it. Without all kinds of support, all kinds of tanks brought by the Allies to the Soviet Union, the weapons, the humanitarian aid, and things like that. So this is the difference. To Russians, it's like a parallel reality, They live in this bubble, and they believe that they could do it themselves because they are supreme nation that already spends like 440 days struggling over freaking Bakhmut in Ukraine. In civilized countries, it's a memorial day. It's not like a crazy celebration, drunk people dancing, puking, and doing other kinds of crazy shit. USSR was starving until USA helped them. Captain Lurk, Russia was also starving until USA helped them. In early 90s, there was a big supply of chicken legs to Russia, to starving Russia. And in Russia, they are known as Bush's legs, by the way. Older people still remember that. More younger people tend not to remember that. But basically, this supply from the US saved Russia from starvation in the 90s. How do they call World War One? Basically World War One, but Russians are not very interested in World War One for some reason. I don't know. By the way, I hope you saw this movie 1917. It's amazing. The way it was the way it was produced, like one single shot, one single frame, basically. It's amazing. Chicken feet, yeah. Feet, no, not feet, legs. Feet, chicken feet, legs, chicken legs. World War I was the one that they quit and went home very angry and killed the Tsar. Maybe that's the reason. That seems legit to me. There are a lot of pages of their history that they would rather not remember. Like when they were fighting against the Japanese fleet that completely obliterated the Russian fleet. I believe Aurora cruiser that is very, very famous in Russia. It was the only ship that survived that attack. There were a lot of things. Nestor, do you take Prigozhin's statements seriously? Not really. Don't trust what they say. Just don't. In Russian public, in their eyes, Russia never lost a war. Exactly. That was not really the Russians' fault, just the Japanese had better ships than the Russians, as well as better training, better army, better weapons, better command. But it wasn't their fault at all. Bet they don't talk about Hostomel much either. So they have this myth that tells about 200 brave Russian paratroopers that obliterated 2,500 Ukrainian nationalists in Hostomel and courageously died in a combat. But they punished those nationalists by eliminating like thousands of men. The fact is, they don't even have a single picture of a dead Ukrainian guardsman. since the day one near Hostomel airport, because there was none. Memorial Day originated in the US South following the US Civil War. I think it was to preserve and install gravestones for the war dead. I'm not totally sure of that. But still, it's on 8th of May, right? Because I noticed the difference in 2008 when I worked in Washington, D.C., and there was a Memorial Day, and I was like, I wasn't very much acquainted with local culture, and I was like, Memorial Day? And then I noticed that, yeah, it's 8th of May, and 9th of May was like a Victory Day in Russia, and unfortunately in Ukraine. $200 DVD. Is it gonna be a next Russia's blockbuster? I believe so, but I don't think that it will be as successful as the next blockbuster by Doug Liman, because where's my Instagram? Oh no, I have to log in again. What the hell? And that is not even my login. Jesus. Anyways, Doug Liman, director of such movies as Mr. and Mrs. Smith, The Transporter, Bourne's Identification, and something else. So he visited Hostomel the other day. It was, I believe, April or May 2022, and he was recording everything on camera. He even brought those drones that made that captured all the area in 3D, and I believe that he's gonna make a movie about it, because he was saying something about it, and maybe there will be a movie about Hostomel. Bourne Identity, yeah. Ah, so I see. Memorial Day is observed in the US on the last Monday in May. Aha. So the date changes. Now I see it. Yeah, I didn't know that. What to tell Gonzalo Liro's followers who say he was arrested just for expressing his opinion and Ukraine is not a democracy? You can tell that Russia ruled by the same old fart for almost 20 years in a row is probably something that they can call a democracy, but in reality it's not. Yeah, and good point. World War II ended with the defeat of Japan, not of Germany. Exactly. But in Russia, it ended with the defeat of Germany, of course. Are you considered a famous YouTuber in Ukraine? I don't think so. And like, being famous is beneficial when you're a civilian person. If you're a military, it's like rather. If you're a press officer, it's rather your job. Why do many soldiers not fasten the chin strap on their helmets? Good question. So again, it's one of the myths that were widespread in Ukraine for some reason. And do you know anything about the Spetsnaz starter pack? Not the shashlik. So, where I had this stuff? Because it's hilarious. Because it's beautiful. Yeah, here it is. So basically, this is the Soviet Spetsnaz starter pack, which means that you like mustache, then this tельняшка, the thermal layer with like stripes, then the cord that is used to stop bleeding that you wrap around the stock of your rifle, and of course this camel pattern Berezka that was introduced I think around like 70s. That is the Spetsnaz starter pack. The only thing that he lacks is like bandana. Okay, he needs bandana also, and then tactical gloves without fingers. And that would be a complete Spetsnaz starter pack. So the reason why they use fingerless tactical gloves is because it looks cool. The cord, the one that is supposed to save your life if you're like bleeding, it's gonna pop or tear like in half because it's wrapped around your stock, and still it looks cool. Okay. Also mustache, guys. The helmets that are not strapped. There was another myth that originated in Spetsnaz, that if you're hit with a bullet, it will break your neck. But if you unstrap your straps on your helmet, the helmet will fly away and you will remain safe. I know approximately 10 people who freaking died because they fell down from a moving BTR or other vehicle and destroyed their heads because their helmets were not strapped. That's the reality. And I don't know a single person who died because a bullet broke their neck by hitting their helmet. And that strap on the stock. So sometimes they have this small bandage, for example, that they put inside of the stock. Okay, because that is AKSU 74 or AKS with like frame stock there's a hole inside. So sometimes they put the bandage inside of this stalk and wrap that shit around the stalk. Who came up with that? I don't know. I think it originated in like Soviet times. But a lot of people believe in this shit. Don't tell the Russians. I believe they don't speak English, luckily for us. Yeah, it looks cool to have your strap hanging, but it's not exactly smart. Absolutely, and uh, I always strapped my helmet because when you're running around, when you fall down, when you get up and run, and when you try to break through bushes in the forest or whatever, if you don't strap your helmet, it will fall down. It like every single time. I checked. This is true. Not using the strap. Oh yeah, Thorn. Not using the strap of the helmet was common among U.S. troops in World War II for the same reason. It was 70 years ago. Exactly. But we're talking about Russians that use the same like mentality and tactics that they were using 70 years ago. So nothing changed much. Why do they wear striped shirts like a French memes? So, in the Soviet times, and even earlier, I believe, in the times of the Russian Empire, their sailors were wearing like striped shirts. Later, it was adopted by their marines, paratroopers, tankers, and oh my god, internal troops like NKVD. So it they had different color for those stripes. So NKVD, for example, had like red stripes. Paratroopers had blue stripes. Tankers and Marines, accordingly, they had, I believe, black stripes. And for some reason, they think that it looks cool, which is absolutely wrong because you don't walk in a forest like this with white and blue stripes, because that's how you die, because that's how you expose yourself. During the war in Vietnam, the US made a research on why there were like casualties among the infantry, and they came to conclusion that they could avoid majority of those casualties if the infantry would follow the like primitive rules of camouflage. And I'm talking not only about visual camouflage, but also acoustic camouflage. So when, for example, you can see a lot of cases when soldiers have the belts of their AKs wrapped with like a tape, like a duct tape, to prevent the sound, to get rid of the sound, which is smart, which is exactly what you have to do. And same, for example, for like when you're running around with a plastic bottle of water, which is half full, you will produce sound. So you can just squeeze it and remove all the air from the bottle and you will be fine. Same with visual camouflage. For this very reason, people camouflage their faces, because face is the part of our body that is easily recognized by our brain, right? Even if you're wearing a mask, like balaclava mask, it's still easily recognized. That's why you have to change the shape of your face completely. Same with exposed parts of your body, like arms. For this reason, even during summertime, when it's hellishly hot, you still have long sleeves because you don't want to expose parts of your body. So there are rules that you follow, and those are very, very easy rules. But Russians still tend to, to walk like this, with like stripes, exposing those stripes to everybody in the area. That's why they die. Noise and light discipline, absolutely. Do the Russians still drink a lot? I don't see a reason why they should stop drinking. Guys, this is what makes them Russian, okay? Oh, that is interesting. Smoking routine as well, because in World War II, bombers were taken down by night fighters because rear gunner had a glowing smoke and was seen. I didn't know about it, but I remember this funny story from the World War II when the Brits invented a radar. Not sure if it was British or Americans, but I believe Brits. So they invented a radar, and they were able to like hunt the submarines in the night, and because they didn't want to expose this secret, it was a military secret. So they created like a fake, like a rumor that British pilots were eating plenty of carrot, and carrot is good for your eyes. It improves your vision, which was kind of funny. But still, it was really cool. Magnetron. Magnetron. Yeah. But Kadyrov knows that Islam forbids drinking alcohol. Kadyrovites do drink, not as much as other Russians, but they do. And they also use other substances. Trust me. Regarding Kadyrovites, prior to the invasion, during the anti-terrorist operation in Donbass, there was our guy with DSHK, heavy machine gun, and yeah, it was the Victory Day back then, exactly. So obviously Russians got drunk. What other substance? Like drugs. So Russians got drunk, and there were also Kadyrovites, and they started shouting at our boys, and the guy with the heavy machine gun, he had like a thermal vision aim installed on it. So he noticed a Kadyrovite who came out of his trench, and he decided to cross this field between their positions, and he was approaching our guys, screaming at them, and he was like, "Hey, you are the man, let's have a fair fight, I'm gonna wrestle, I'm gonna kick your ass," you know, and like he was obviously under influence, like obviously. And he was like walking across the field towards our guys. The dude said he shot only one bullet, and that Kadyrovite ceased to be. That's all. Like, end of the story. But he said they also drink, not as much as other Russians, but they also have they also use other things that they have plenty among Kadyrovites. JD Mako, I'm starving. Same here, actually. Let's wrap. Yeah, so they are crazy. Like in Chechnya, among Chechens, and actually it's very typical for Caucasian nations like Georgia, Azerbaijan. So it's like national feature. So in Ukraine, most of our teenagers, they do boxing. In Caucasian countries, they do wrestling, which is very, very popular. Very popular. Among Ukrainians, it's popular among the like Caucasian Ukrainians, okay, like Ukrainian Georgians, for example. I don't know why. Okay, guys, it's been 2 hours. I think you're tired and bored like hell. I think it's a good opportunity to say goodnight, because it's 3 a.m. in my country. Did we ever get a number of stolen toilets and washers? I've no idea. A lot of them. Okay, guys, I will be saying goodnight. Thank you so much for staying with me. As usual, a lot of interesting questions. We'll see you next time. Soon I will publish some reports from about our guys. So stay safe. Big hello from me and Fudge, and see you later. And Google this Spetsnaz starter pack. It's something that you probably never thought about, but it's very, very interesting. Okay, guys, Operator Starsky here. Take care and be safe.